Hi, welcome beautiful Americans. How are you?
When I saw my wife driving an extra 400 miles a week, I knew something was wrong. But the truth was so much worse. She wasn't just cheating. She was taking our young children to her parents' house, driving 90 minutes back, meeting her lover at a dumpy motel, and then driving 90 minutes to pick up the kids. When I found the evidence, I didn't scream at her. I hired a private investigator, and on the same day I served her with divorce papers, I delivered the proof of his cheating to his wife. My marriage ended quietly. His life was burned to the ground. If you've ever had to watch the person you love disrespect everything you built, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story about how one simple act of truth led to a chain reaction of total, unadulterated justice. The setup, the mileage lie. My name is Lena, and this happened back in the early 2000s. I had 2 young children, about 4 and 6 years old. My parents had an ugly, drawn-out divorce fueled by infidelity, and the fallout absolutely scarred my childhood. Because of that, I swore that cheating was something I would never accept. It was my absolute boundary. My wife had a part-time job, but something felt off. Our kids started talking a lot about staying with her parents, who lived about 90 minutes away. Taking them there once a week. Normal. But 2 or 3 times a week. That was too much travel. Didn't add up. When I asked my wife, she denied it, but she was never a good liar. Her eyes would dart, and her answers were always too quick. I felt that chilling, sinking feeling in my gut, the one that tells you your reality is about to crumble. I started doing what any suspicious person would do. I tracked the mileage on her car. Sure enough, she was driving an extra 400 miles or so every single week. That's 400 miles of mystery, of unaccounted for time. I knew some serious shift was going on. The evidence, the AOL clue. The moment the universe handed me the proof was pure, early 2000s gold. I sat down at our shared desktop computer, and there, next to the keyboard, was a sticky note with her AOL password scribbled on it. I couldn't resist. I logged into her AOL account, and that's where I found the email exchanges. They were between her and her college best friend. They weren't talking about the kids. They were gleefully discussing how my wife was regularly sleeping with one of her old boyfriends from high school. Worse still, she was trashing the guy's current wife, making fun of how she'd gotten fat after having kids. The betrayal was staggering, but the contempt for another woman, a woman just like me raising kids, fueled a cold, hard rage. I printed out those emails, every word, and stashed them away. This wasn't a fight I was going to lose. The cold planning. Enter Ron the PI. I needed the full story. I needed dates, locations, and a name. I called a friend who was a cop, and he connected me with a private investigator named Ron. Ron was sharp. An ex-cop who knew how to find the shadows. I gave Ron the emails and the mileage logs. Ron got to work. His final report was brutal. It contained photos, timestamps, and addresses detailing the entire routine. My wife would drop the kids off 90 minutes away, drive back to meet the high school ex, spend a few hours at a dumpy motel, and then drive all the way back to pick up our children. She was using our kids as an alibi. The disgust was absolute. I immediately hired a divorce lawyer. There was no going back. Target Vice President Bob. I had my lawyer drafting the papers, but the revenge felt incomplete. I had my wife's life handled, but the other half of the problem, the man who helped engineer this betrayal, needed to face consequences too. I asked Ron to find out everything he could about the ex-boyfriend. Ron came through with the kind of information that felt like a gift from the revenge gods. His name was Bob. He was married, had 3 kids, and most satisfyingly, he was the VP of sales for his father-in-law's business. That was the target. He didn't just cheat. He risked his entire, comfortable, nepotistically secured life. I didn't want my revenge to be loud. I wanted it to be comprehensive. The execution, the coordinated strike. I made my plan simple, elegant, and perfectly timed. I asked Ron for a couple of extra copies of his detailed report, complete with the time-stamped photos of the motel rendezvous. I also asked him for one more thing. I needed him to meet with Bob's wife. I figured that Bob's wife, let's call her Linda, deserved the truth. I didn't want to weaponize her. I wanted to inform her. What she did with that information was her choice, but I felt a moral obligation to destroy the architect of the lie. The final strike day was perfection. In the morning, my wife was served with the divorce papers at her work. The confrontation was clean and legal. Simultaneously, Ron met with Linda. He laid out the entire report, the motel details, the dates, the photos. He gave her the proof, the climactic payoff, the burning life. My divorce proceeded quietly, clinically. The infidelity didn't change the custody, but it validated my decision. But Bob's life exploded with a glorious ferocity that exceeded anything I could have planned. Linda didn't just file for divorce. She went scorched earth. According to publicly available court records, she immediately cleaned out their joint bank account and took the children. Her father, Bob's boss and the owner of the company, found out what Bob had done, and the verdict was swift and financially lethal. Bob was fired. But it got better. Since Linda's parents owned the very house Bob and Linda lived in, Bob was also evicted. He lost his family, his job, his home, and his money, all in one terrifying rapid cascade. His divorce was unbelievably ugly. I heard reports that he showed up at the house, arguing with Linda, and it escalated until Linda's brother stepped in and broke Bob's nose. I felt a surge of validation that ran bone deep. The physical violence, the police reports, the restraining orders, even criminal charges and jail time, all because he couldn't keep his life in his pants. The aftermath, total erasure. Karma, in this case, was not a slow wheel. It was a wrecking ball handled by his own furious family. I can't find Bob on the internet anywhere now. Last I heard, he'd left the state entirely, professionally and financially ruined. As for me, my life is quiet. My ex and I got along well enough to co-parent, but now that the kids are adults, I don't talk to her at all. I don't hate her. I don't need to. I only care about her as the mother of my kids, nothing more. The lesson: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when they betray you, make sure the consequences are delivered to everyone involved. I didn't burn his life down. I just gave his own wife the match and the gasoline. It's tempting to fight fire with fire, but sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is simply speak the truth and let the consequences flow naturally. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. And what Bob received was a lifetime supply of it. If this story gave you the perfect sense of satisfaction, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying consequence you've ever seen a cheater face? And of course, subscribe to English Stories with Louisa for more perfectly executed revenge.